Hey guys, welcome back to the Hat House. Pretty slow weekend by most accounts. Some of it was self-induced. I declined a lot of orders this weekend because we had a lot going on. And also we just got everything cleaned up over this past week. So we are almost caught up on all those hats you saw that we needed to wash. We still have a few of the clothes that need to be done. But overall, the sales just kind of disappointing.
Yeah, we only did, I think, around 800 all weekend. So that's quite a big difference than what we normally do.
Yeah, only about 65 orders going out today. Still going to add about, I think I have 2 other sales videos from last week that I'm going to add on to this one. So still a lot of hat sales that you'll be able to take a look at. But our sales just weren't that great this weekend. Let me know how yours went. Maybe you're having a little bit better time at it. But as far as hats go, it's a pretty good lull here between now and really February and March. It'll start to pick up a little bit better for us when people start getting back outside. But definitely the winter months are kind of tough. If I do sell a few beanies in the store, and whenever I get good winter hats, I can have some good sales. But it can be a little bit tough until spring starts getting closer. But what else do we have planned for today?
We're going to cross list on Vindu. So that's my afternoon.
Yeah, when we went through Vindu, we found something kind of interesting.
Yeah, I noticed today when I was checking Vindu that none of the cells were detecting. So I had to go in and turn on all of our cells detection on each of the platforms. We don't know how it got turned off, but I would suggest checking it every once in a while if you're not seeing them on the page. Just make sure that it is connected and that the cells detection is turned on.
Yeah, it was really weird. When we went to pick our orders, we were like, well, none of these have been taken off. And so we came back to the computer and looked at it and was like, why did they all get turned off? We didn't turn them off. But so you might check those out like Mary said. But let's get to the sales that we did have over the weekend. There were some cool hats in there that we'll check out. All right, let's get to the sales. If you thought I was gonna let Mary get by without telling you what her hat was, we'll do that now. Mine is actually Travis Matthew beanie. Mary got it for, I'm gonna get in trouble here. My birthday or Christmas. It was Christmas a couple of years ago. I knew it was an awesome gift for my wife. I just couldn't remember which one it was. But I really love my beanie. Hers is, of course, a New Era New York Giants beanie. Her favorite NFL team that
Haven't done very well in the last few years.
Yeah, well, since Eli Manning's been gone, she doesn't root as hard, I would say. I don't know.
Yeah.
But really cold here in the Oklahoma today, and it's going to get colder. So hopefully we'll sell the rest of our beanies, and you'll probably be seeing us wear a few more of them over the next couple of months. First up was this Polo Ralph Lauren regular white dad hat, pretty clean. I think this one went for around 20 bucks for the polo hat. Pretty good condition. White is hard to find in still clean condition. So happy to get that for this one. On the polo hats, always put the color of the pony in your listing as well, because people look for not just the color of the hat, but the color of the pony as well. Next up was a nice vintage Duke hat. This one went for 20 bucks as well. It had a little bit of dirtiness on the inside, so it wasn't perfect, but still really cool Duke hat. $20. I think I got a lot of $10 offers for this one, and just was waiting for 20 because I knew somebody would pay it. Next up was this vintage funny trucker hat. I don't give a shit, don't take shit. I'm not in the business, so somebody wanted to make a statement with this hat, and they probably will. It went for $12. Next up is a vintage Ford Thunderbird hat. Went for $19. Customer, I think, offered $15. And I was being a little nice. I thought this was closer to a $25 hat, but I went ahead and accepted their offer for $19, and a really cool vintage hat. Next up was a USF Bulls hat. This one for $14. It was on the Legacy tag. It was just a little different because it was a blue color. Not many out there that were blue, I don't think. So $14, always a good sales price for dad hats. Next up was a Mack truck hat. Really cool Mack hat. right here went for $28. It was on this auto tag, so it's hard to tell if this one might have been newer, but the patch was really nice on it, and it was in really beautiful condition. So I think it's newer and somebody just put the patch on this hat, but I still knew that it would be around a $25 to $30 hat. Really cool hat right here. Champion Dad hat went out for $12. Next up was this other polo hat. It went for $25. It's blue with the blue pony on it, and it was even a newer one. So somebody's probably looking for this exact color. And when you have the different color of polo hats, always best to test the waters between $20 to $30 before you mark them down to see if somebody's looking for this exact color. Next up was a Tampa Bay Lightning Hockey NHL hat. That hat went for $14. Regular strap back hat. And this Minnesota Timberwolves, it was vintage, but it was a strap back. Still had the tags on it. It went out for $12. Minnesota Golden Gophers, just a regular strap back hat, went for $7. Next up was this Obey hat, which can be hit and miss. This one was a 5-panel Obey. It went for $28. Some Obey hats don't go for near as much, but usually the 5-panel hats like this, and it being denim, went for $28. I think it's just a little harder to find one like this, and I just knew to price it up because of the style and because it was 5-panel. Next up, a Dallas Cowboy NFC Championship. Went for $8. Next up, this one went for $8. I thought it would be better than this. I had it for a while though. It was Pete's Place, Fort Smith, Arkansas. Took a while to sell. It was on the Youngin tag. Nice, almost like new old stock trucker. Sometimes they just sit forever, and you take the first offer you get. Notre Dame Fighting Irish Dad hat went for $10. This was on just a regular collegiate tag. Next up was IndyCar Racing New Era Flex Fit hat. IndyCar stuff can do really well. This one went for $15, but this one just took quite a while to sell. But if you see IndyCar stuff out there, it can be pretty good. Next up was a Patagonia Fitzroy Fish, went for $15. Then a KBU hat that went for $15 as well. This one was kind of the lightweight version. A lot of times these are canvas. This was more of a nylon polyester lightweight. Next up was a United States Olympic Team Nike hat. This one went for around $20. A lot of offers for the $10 range on this hat, and it just knew that this one was usually selling in the $20 price range, so I held out on it. And you just on these Nike hats that are different and special, just make sure to look them up and see how many are out there. Then a St. Ellis Brewing Company on the OGO hat went for $10. Just a regular beer hat. It's a little different because it was on a newer, nice brand. OGO makes pretty decent stuff. Next up was a Titleist hat, not the most desirable style. Went for $10 and took quite a while to sell. Next up was a Yellowstone snapback hat. Went for $10 as well. Had a really cool embroidery on it, and it was actually branded. It was branded. I don't know what that was. We have to fix that later. It was branded Yellowstone on it and had a really good embroidery. Next up was a Green Bay Packers. This was a women's, had the nice sequence on it. Went for around $10. Women's hat are so hit and miss. Really, if I told you I had it figured out exactly why some sell for $20 and some don't, I don't know. I don't get it. So I always start them higher. Because sometimes they will sell for more, but this one made it down to the $10 range and finally sold. Maybe the reason it finally sold is because it was a combined order. I think all of these went out for around $30. We had a beanie Green Bay, the women's Green Bay, and then this Super Bowl champion. It's really cool. This was a pretty distressed hat, but really kind of collectible. It had all of the embroidery all over it, and really cool hat right here. Nice combined order. Next up was Google Lens. To find this logo right here, Stetson Hatters, I think at college. And it took me a while to track it down, but thanks to Google Lens, I found it, went for $14. And I think I only got that because I could find the logo. Next up was this Gibson Guitars, went for $13. Really clean, pretty cool little hat. It was just really plain, so I didn't think it would bring that much, and $13 was it. Next up, a regular, pretty faded North Face, went for $10. Blue, but faded. Huff 5-panel, I'm really surprised. I'm gonna have to look into why this went for 13. I may have actually priced it for too low, but really cool Huff 5-panel hat. Super clean condition, $13. They got a great deal on that one. New hat, this one is the canvas version, went for 15. They'll sell closer to 20 during the spring and summer when hiking and outdoors really going on. So taking the 15 right now. The price can go up when the seasons change. Yeah, Sports Center hat went for $8. Typically ESPN stuff is not that great unless you have a really cool one. $8 on this one, and even still have the tags. And O'Neill surfing hat went for $10. Then a polo jeans hat with the flag on it. Just had this one for a while, and it had this kind of stain right here. Went for $15. But some of the ones with the flags on them, you want to look them up. They can do really well. Next up was a Ryder Cup hat, went for $12. Really cool. The Ryder Club, the Country Club. This was even on the Nike Golf. It was a little faded, but pretty cool little hat right here. Next up was a Boise State Broncos. Went out for around $17. 7 5/8, $59.50 fitted, new era, Boise State. Next up was this American Eagle. Had this plaid flannel look on it. Pretty cool hat. It still had the tag on it. The tag said 17. I took 13 or 14. A good sale here. A good winter looking hat. Next up, is this the second Minnesota hat? Minnesota Golden Gophers went for $8. Just a regular strap back, a little bit older, but nothing special on this one. Next up was New Holland Agriculture snapback hat. It was K Products. It was on this little newer K Products tag. It's just kind of a newer style too. Next up, Dallas Cowboys went for $14. Hope springs eternal in the Dallas area. So good luck, guys. Hope Dak doesn't let you down. I hope you like this hat. Next up was just a Disney hat. Women's went for $7. Seattle Seahawks that hat went for $11.33. This one was even on the NFL tag. So these are probably around $18 free shipping. Next up was a vintage Nautica hat. And it went for like $9. The Nautica stuff that does really well has the big logos and stuff. This was just kind of a basic dad hat for $9. Next up was a really cool J. Crew winter hat right here. Went for $18. And it was vintage. Here's the vintage tag on it. Had the nice ear flaps, winter hat. I thought it was a pretty cool hat. J. Crew doesn't sell that well, but being vintage and kind of a cool look right here. Next up was this Oakley. It went for $18 as well. And it kind of had this Mexican flag in the logo here. And always make sure you put that kind of stuff in the title. This one was pretty clean. Nice little hat right here. Next up was this Baltimore Orioles hat. A repeat buyer, I believe. And we had a lot of repeat buyer sales this weekend. Really appreciate that. And if any of you guys, I know some of you are buying hats out there that are coming over from the YouTube side. Just want to remind you, if you'll put in the checkout that you watch our YouTube channel, get you a sticker, and we can send that with the hat, because I know you guys are buying some things from our store. We really appreciate that. Appreciate everybody watching. So make sure you let us know at checkout. When you go to checkout, put a note in there that how much you like the YouTube channel. And last up with this Adidas Adventure hat. It went for like $17. It says it was reflective on it. A customer asked me where it's reflective. I said, I am not exactly sure. I assume like this side is reflective and the logo is reflective. But really cool hat right here. Super clean. It was pretty much new. And then last was a Depop sale. $22 for this Mercedes-Benz hat. Just a regular dad hat. It was official. See the big tag in here. Mercedes-Benz right here on this back buckle. So really cool hat. And I've told you guys, I put a lot of this stuff on Depop and stuff. A lot of the car manufacturers I'll put there. I don't really, some of the older stuff can be on like a generic blank. And you just really don't know if it's officially licensed or not. And so you can run into some Vero problems. But I usually put all of them on Depop or Mercari or Poshmark, and they sell okay there. They could sell faster on eBay, but I just don't take that chance. All right, first up was this Evansfield flannel. It went international for $38, and it was size 7 3/8. I wasn't even 100% sure what this logo was. Still went for $38 international. Ebbetsfield flannel, even missing the tags on the inside, but did have the size tag still. You can tell it's an Ebbetsfield flannel by the bottom here and just the way that it is constructed, the nice leather band that's in here. But somebody did cut the Ebbetsfield flannel tag out of it. Next up was a Polo Ralph Lauren, kind of a newer pony hat, went for $15. Next up was a nice Woolrich winter hat, was sharp aligned, had these cool little buckles on the strap. Here is the tag. Nice Woolrich hat, went for $23 on this one. Next up was a Georgia Bulldogs, went out for $12, just a Zephyr fitted wool Georgia Bulldogs. Next up was a Los Angeles Dodgers, really cool colorway. Not sure how it slipped down to $14, but I had it for a while. I guess didn't really like this colorway, and it was a little bit older on this. Wasn't quite vintage, but 2010-ish. Los Angeles Dodgers hat went for $14. Next up was regular Puma hat, snapback, went for $10. Next up, somebody got a great deal on this Hurley hat, went out for $9. I think it was missing the size tag, was part of its problem, but I called it a small medium because that's about how it fit. Next up was an Under Armour. This was women's actually, went for $11, almost like new condition. These little sports hats and kind of workout hats going to start doing really well over the next couple months. Next up was this vintage Sabian. They make like cymbals, music cymbals. It was a flat cap, went for $15. Next up was this fish sticks, went for like $18. It was smaller, like a kid's use size. Still really cool minor league logo on this one, and a fitted New Era. Awesome little hat. Next up was this Nike hat. It actually went with that Puma hat earlier. This one went for $17. It was on this kind of older Nike tag, probably Y2K, but a really cool Nike hat right here. Next up was this Patagonia hat, snapback. This is the unstructured style. This one went for like $13, $14. It had a little bit of a flaw right here, but Patagonia hat. Next up with this Cal Bears. It was the strapback version on this Nike hat. They just don't sell for as much. This one went for $9 on the Nike Cal Bears. Next up was this Seattle Mariners. Had the nice American League side logo on it. Was large, extra large, kind of a different, bigger size than usual. Went for $10. They got a good deal on this one. Next up was this really cool Revel Collection Club 1997 vintage rope trucker hat. It was on the kudzu tag. Really cool, almost like dead stock condition. Went for $15. Really cool hat right here. And the darn Seagulls finally sold. Had the seagull poop all over it. Went for $17. Cool little vintage hat here. I'm sure everybody has had one of these in the past or seen one before if you've ever been to the beach. Next up was Washington Nationals, a New Era, just a regular New Era fitted hat, $59.50, 7 1/4, went for $15. Next up was this Nike hat, really cool color on this one, orangish, reddish color, featherlight hat, went for $14. And last up for today was this Ohio State hat, went for $13. It was kind of a flex fitted or kind of a perfect franchise fitted, but it wasn't on that tag. It was size large. Pretty cool little Ohio State hat. All right, let's get to some hat sales. First up was this New York Highlanders. Went out for $45. This was a Roman. Roman is usually a good brand of fitted hat, usually older, kind of vintage. Sometimes they'll have like leather sweatbands in them as well. And they're usually not in great shape. This one was okay. Still went out for $45, mainly because it was New York Highlanders, which is kind of a old baseball team in New York. Really good sale right here. Went international too, so they paid some shipping. Next up was a nice combined sale. Both these hats went out for $30 plus shipping. This Puma with the P on it is really hot in the golfing world. A lot of the golfers wear the Puma with the P on it. And then this was just a rope hat, leather strap back rope hat, $15 for these two cool hats. Then vintage San Diego, just regular snapback, went for $14. It was on the Twins Enterprise. It was a little faded, but still $13. Next up was this vintage Nike hat, went out for $28. This was also an international sale. Really beautiful condition for this Nike hat. Had the nice embroidered swoosh on it. Here is the vintage Nike tag. Snaps were in great shape. Really nice sale. Really nice hat. Next up was this nice Nike SB. It was youth, it was kids, so I took a little bit less than I would. Normally it'd be a $25 to $35 hat right here. I took like 13 for this Nike 5-panel hat, just because it was on the smaller side, and I usually take most offers for youth hats just because they can take so long to sell. But maybe I could have held on to this a little longer for 20. Next up was this vintage Harvard Athletic. It was just a blank vintage hat. Went out for $10. Next up was this Patagonia. It went out for $13. Just a strap back Patagonia, kind of the lightweight version. Next up was a RVCA hat with a patch on it that I had forever. Went out for $10. Just a snapback. Next up was a Nike Featherlight. This was also youth. It was a Featherlight strap back youth. Went out for 10. Next up was a cool farmer hat. If you ain't a rancher, then you ain't pretty funny, big patch. Nice little vintage hat here. Went for 15. Next up was this vintage fishing hat. Had the nice long bill on it. It went for 15 as well. There's the vintage tag. The snaps are still in great shape. Maybe this is one I should have held on to for 2 or 3 more months, but I'd had it for so long already. But during fishing time, this would be closer to $20 to $25 hat, but I took 15. Then a vintage Coca-Cola corduroy zip back. This one was on the Sanson, not the most desirable vintage tag. Still a cool rope corduroy Coke hat. Went for 17. Next up was a Oregon State Beavers Zephyr hat. Had the really cool beaver on the back mesh part, which I think kind of sold this hat. $13. Next up was this nice ESPN baseball. It had Baseball Tonight on the back. Went for $16. Nice flex fitted wool hat. Great condition. Next up was Baltimore Orioles new era 7 1/4. Went for $17 fitted. Just the regular colors. Next up was this Biketoberfest hat. Went for like $13. Still had the tag on it. The nice embroidered Daytona Beach. I'm not exactly sure. I need to look up what this style of hat is called right here. I didn't call it anything specific. It almost looks like a biker hat. I don't think that's what the biker hats call them. So I need to check that out. Maybe I can figure that out and let you know. Next up was a vintage funny trucker hat. When all else fails, lower your standards. The foam was still good. Had a little crack in here. I don't want to bend it anymore, but had a little crease right here in the bill. Next up was this Ping golf hat. Went for $13. Just a regular strap back Ping, black and white, lightweight golf hat. Then a Tommy Hilfiger dad hat, just regular strap back dad hat. Went for 10. Then we had this nice Bighorn Co-op. It had this nice puff paint on it. Went for $20. Still had a lot of the foam in it, but some of it was coming out kind of around the logo. But $20 for this one. Really cool hat. Then next up was this Miami Marlins. It was a size 8, so it was a little bit bigger size. Went for usually this mesh can do really well. People kind of look for this over the wool. And this was a pretty big hat, so I was happy to sell it for $16. Size 8 can take a while to sell sometimes.